I don't know what's happening with gaming lately, but man, am I tired of games being released full of bugs, having insane performance issues, missing content, or just overall feeling like they're in early access. With the recently increased price for the AAA gaming market and the promises that this generation of consoles was going to be amazing, we consumers are finding out once again that you can't believe the hype and all the PR talk that comes from these companies. With the recent news that RedFall will be launching running at 30 FPS on both the Xbox Series X and the Series S, is just another example of how the AAA gaming market is headed in the wrong direction. But before we take a deep dive into this topic, I want to take a brief moment and welcome anyone new to the channel. If you are new, please consider subscribing. I got a ton of stuff in the works that I would love to share with you all. Also, if you do happen to enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like. But anyways guys, we got a lot to get into, so without further ado, let's get into it. So yes, RedFall will be launching with the quality mode running at 4K 30 FPS on the Xbox Series X and 1440p at 30 FPS on the Xbox Series S, with a future performance mode launching sometime post-launch. That's probably gonna just make the game run at 1080p 60 FPS. Now, while this is not the end of the world, it does beg the question, why are developers and publishers pushing hardware so hard that the first thing that they decide to destroy is the overall frame rate of the game? This is not the first game to do this. Gotham Knights had this issue as well, and I honestly bet a majority of players would have rather have played Gotham Knights with tethered co-op with a higher frame rate than untethered co-op at 30 frames per second. Plus, I have no idea why we have this tendency to call 30 frames per second the quality mode. Playing a game at that low of a frame rate literally makes you feel like you're playing a game stuck in the mud. It is not enjoyable at all, and it really does take away from the overall experience. Maybe it's just time developers realize that pushing visuals and certain features at the cost of performance is not the best idea. Honestly, at this point, I just wish that all that extra fluff such as ray tracing, untethered co-op on a host connection was dropped. Instead, we started to get games that actually put performance first instead of all the buzzwords features that we see in marketing campaigns. Now, I know Arcane did say that 60 FPS is coming in a future patch, which tells me this game is launching incomplete. It's basically a game launching in early access. And honestly, that's becoming more of a trend for the AAA scene, for games to be launching missing basic features that we used to take for granted. From games launching with dead zone issues on certain controllers, or New Game Plus mode coming months later. Hell, half of these games launch with major texture issues or stuttering on PC. It's just time and time again. A big AAA game comes out, one platform or two or all of them have major issues and we all have to wait for a patch. At this point, it's honestly best to assume any title you're excited about, just go in expecting that day one, you're buying the game in an early access state. You're paying for a game that's still in active development. Doesn't matter if it's marketed as games as a service, it could be a single player game, just have that expectation. But honestly, let's get back on track and talk about why Microsoft really did drop the ball on RedFall. First off, during the marketing for the Xbox Series X, I remember so many people discussing the teraflops and the power that the Series X would have, claiming that it would be a generation that games would be running at 4K 60 FPS. Hell, Microsoft even said that the system would have enough power that developers could reach these stats without compromises. Just look at this direct quote from Xbox themselves. The team knew that they needed to build a next generation console that could run games in 4K at 60 FPS with no compromises for developers. Well, here we are. We're just realistically getting into true next-gen games. And boy, did that promise of 60 FPS fly out the window real fast. Xbox has an exclusive game coming out and is only gonna be at 30 FPS. To make matters worse, this is the first title Xbox is launching at the new price of $70. So basically, now that next gen is finally truly kicking in, the Xbox Series X has a title that's not cross-gen, exclusive only on these new consoles, and the promise of 4K 60 FPS without compromise is gone. Now you could say at the time of marketing that they had no idea that games in the future would require more powerful hardware than what they were selling. Here's the problem with that logic. We hear over and over again how long it takes for games to be in development. So Microsoft had to have known what was in the works for these upcoming games and what they would require hardware-wise to run at the performance level that they advertised the system could handle. Or at least a ballpark idea. So they basically knew that once cross-gen games were finished, that the new hardware would already be reaching limitations. And they definitely had to have known what Bethesda was working on because Microsoft acquired them back in 2021. These acquisitions do not happen overnight. They take time, and Microsoft had to have known about Starfield and RedFall, so that what they were selling, they knew that just in a few short years, we would already be seeing games running at 30 FPS all over again. Yet they decided to lead the marketing campaign discussing the power of the system over and over again. And do not get it twisted. Sony does the same thing, so this is not one-sided. Hell, we even see this on PC with the marketing for the GPUs. Unfortunately, we live in a world where developers are pushing features that are outdating hardware at an accelerated pace. Things like ray tracing, hairworks, untethered co-op, all this nonsense tanks your performance, but they look so good in a commercial. How many times have we seen a game where it says ray tracing enabled, supports ray tracing, 4K, blah, 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 blah. But when we go to play it, it feels so sluggish that the first thing you want to do is turn off these features just so you could get a stable frame rate. What is sad is I'm not even surprised by any of this. I've seen this song and dance time and time again. The problem is, especially on the console side of things, is that when a new console comes out, the first couple of years, we get mainly cross-gen titles. And by the time we get exclusive next-gen titles at a frequent pace, the systems are already starting to show their age. However, the masses start to forget all the marketing promises. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see people call for an Xbox Series X Pro and PS5 Pro, when in fact, if Microsoft and Sony and these developers made the games running at a decent performance level and just cut some of the fluff features out, we would actually get more length out of these next-gen systems. It's just honestly a shame that as consumers, we have to be guarded at all times. From companies lying to our faces, to game developers waiting till the last minute to announce bad news. In fact, we still don't even know the recommended PC specs for RedFall, even though the game is due to release in a couple of weeks. And it's not just companies we have to be worried about. We can't even trust the gaming journalist websites, because honestly at times it feels like they're just a PR branch for the big publishers instead of providing accurate information to consumers. Gaming is just in a bad overall state, and it really does suck to see this happen as someone who does love the media. But I want to hear what you all think. Do you guys think this is acceptable, or do you really not care? Or are you like me and you're just getting frustrated at all the nonsense you see in the gaming world, especially from the big AAA scene? Let me know in the comments down below. As for me, I got a ton of work to do, so I'm gonna get back to the grind, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.